Hi, everyone. Today we are going to talk about meditation. And it's going to be a fun conversation. so, let's talk about meditation. I feel like I'm going to reflect a little bit on what I used to think of it before I started doing it. And to be honest, I was never really open to it because in my head, I thought that meditation was for a very specific type of person, and it was for a very specific type of person that I was not. I was like, I'm not into this hippy dippy shit. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan. Like, what am I? I was just closed off to it. And when I started having things shifting for me, I had some experiences, and one of the things that I heard very clearly was like I needed to work on that. And it wasn't anything that I actively shared with anyone. It was just something I needed to kind of figure out for myself, what it looked like, what it felt like, and it became a weekly thing for me. And I have a very clear understanding that meditation can look differently for everyone. And some people might do some 10-15 minute meditation daily, um, mindful meditation. I feel like what I do when I do my meditation and what I do, yes, I can categorize it under the umbrella of meditation, but I think I can also use the word channeling, considering that I am intuitive, and I'll go into that. So, the importance of meditation, let's go with that. Um, I heard the reference one time that meditation is like doing weights for your mind. And I think that is a perfect example. Uh, because it's something that you practice doing, and over time you get better at it. And what it does is it helps raise your awareness on things that stand out in your life. And for those of us who are sensitive, we can start picking up on shit that is like, it's kind of crazy. And I think some people, when they go into it, they're like, why am I not able to do this and that? And it's like, when you think of it let's use a basketball reference. When you start playing basketball, you just don't start doing slam dunks. You have to learn how to dribble. You need to learn how to hold space. You need to learn how to set boundaries on what it is that you want into your space. You need to learn how to sit with feelings. I mean, and learn how to hear some hard truths, because when you open yourself up and you start listening, things that are shared with you through meditation is never meant to hurt you. It is never information that belittles you, um, that is meant to hurt you. You might have someone hold up a mirror, and say, you need to look at yourself and you need to look at these issues, but it's also not always like that. Um, but over time, you start picking up on behaviors in other people. It's just a lot of information that is shared. And teaching people how to meditate, I try to I encourage everyone to explore and find what's right for them, and I have a very specific type of meditation that I teach my clients. It is the same one that I do myself. And what does that look like? So there's a whole process to setting up your space for it. You never want to clean in a dirty room. You always want to eliminate distractions, so that way your something is not constantly pulling your attention and like, like I need to vacuum the floor, or like anything, or those flowers need to be thrown out. Uh, I always sage my space, because I always want a neutral, clean slate when I'm opening myself up, I want nothing stagnant into it. Um, and what it feels like for me, um, I think I said before, what I kind of, I guess I can put it under the umbrella of meditation, but I think also a more accurate term is channeling. I feel like meditation is like a safer word to use with people who don't understand. Um, and it's like when you go in and you set your boundaries of what you want into your space. I try to, not I try, but I find that like little pinprick of energy, and generally I always find it around your heart chakra. And that's what it looks like for me. And when I find it, it's like I'm able to navigate it, find it, tap into it, and it feels like the moment I tap into it, it starts getting bigger and bigger until it envelops my entire um, energy field. And while doing that, I start making connections to um, my, I'll say my spirit guide, but there are times that other energies step forward, and they are always energies that are of a higher vibration. What that means is that I'm not connecting to spirits that were once earthbound or that were once incarnated. Uh, Reason being is that those energies really don't have anything to share with me, and they don't really have anything to teach me. I do have, there are times where if there are energies that are family members or those who have chosen to support me during, my life, sometimes they do step forward. It's not very often, um, but there are times that that does happen. And I also use music as a way to help hold space. um it's about a 10-minute song, and I don't know how I came across it, but it fits perfectly. It tells me kind of when to do certain things, like when to start set boundaries, when to start opening up until we're like full blown like doing it. And then it also tells me when we need to start closing off. And it is important that you have the tools to close your pathways, because if you don't, last thing you want to do is be super open and receptive to everything, and like go about your day like you can't, like it is too much, it's too overwhelming. um but like I said, there's a lot of really helpful information that comes along. And I'm trying to think, I feel like there's a lot of healing that can happen. And we'll talk about, doing a cord cutting session. That is a perfect opportunity to do that. And I'll do a video on cord cutting um, in a little bit. And what else? Sometimes it's a perfect opportunity to actively release what is no longer serving you. And there's been times where I've had crazy experiences. I feel like that happens almost every week. And that's all very different. But I feel like now I'm like trying to skirt around the subject without actually going into it. But fuck it, here I am. Let's do it. So, one of the things that I experienced in one of my meditations is that it can be very therapeutic. I mean, that is just one aspect of it, but there was a situation where you never know what you're going to get. We'll just say that. You go through setting up, and as you begin to open up, things just start filtering in. And one of the biggest healing aspects was in my early life, I experienced a lot of various forms of trauma. And I, f- I feel that I never actively released it. And you can do a lot of work, and I hope that there's someone else who's listening to this who's experienced early onset trauma where sometimes you hold on to it, and it's not something that you're intentionally doing. It's just that you don't trust anyone with it, or uh, you just don't know how. And I started opening up, and in a in a rare sense, I felt my older brother stepping forward. And I he doesn't visit very often. And we'll pause on the story for a quick second. There's an interesting thing for those who are intuitive, is that we have the ability to tune into loved ones of other people, but we don't really have it to tune into the loved ones for us. And to my understanding, there's a very specific reason behind that. It's because when people cross over, that is their next, that's their next journey. That is, the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. And it doesn't matter if it's a sibling, if it's a child, if it's a partner. We have to actively release them, and sometimes that is part of the healing process. And if we had the ability to tune into them even when they cross over, that might prevent us from actively healing, because that connection is still, we're still holding on to it. um and what that can look like for like a partner is that, you know um say that you had a loved one that crossed over, and you were trying and doing everything you could to just reconnect with them in any way possible. You might have another connection that is waiting for you, and if you're constantly trying to hold on to the one that is left, you will never go through the healing process to connect to that one. And even when it comes to, losing a sibling, you will never actively go through the full healing process if you're trying to hold on to what you wish could have been. So for that, he doesn't come forward very often. Special occasions sometimes, but yeah. So he started stepping forward, and it was kind of like a, oh shit, and part of that experience was, it was a big deal to reconnect. And when I tell you, I am floored sometimes by some of my experiences, um, because every rational way that I try to think of what my experience is, what is happening, how we're not taught to process, these type of things. And as far as like the healing goes, a big part of healing from trauma is someone being able to validate it. And sometimes it can be hard to find validation if no one knows what your experience has been like. And in that moment, like I said before, you never know what you're going to get when you start the process. So going through the process and then like having my brother step forward, it was a lot of feelings to go into. And it's also talking about meditation. It's important to learn how to hold space for yourself, because you have to actually sit into it, because the connection's open. You only have a short period of time to remain in that, um, because it's like on a 10-minute timed music thing. Um, and if you aren't grounded and you don't have the capacity to hold space for yourself, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. And then I can understand why some people might shut off and be like, this is too much to deal with. It's a lot. Um, and having him come forward and basically, not basically, but yeah, him validating my entire childhood experience. So let's pause again. So when people cross over, they have the ability to, I don't know the whole dynamics of it, but I know that they are able to tap into your timeline and view things. Well, I don't know if it's they're viewing your memories, or they can go and view things in a different way that they might not have been part of. But basically, he went through my entire upbringing, even for the things that he wasn't a part of, and viewed things from my point of view. And as he's, stepping forward and validating that and letting me know that he's viewed everything and that it was time for me to release it, it's a big freaking deal, And to, at this point, I'm like, in the meditation, again, not prepared for any of this, sobbing on various different reasons, because as you begin to filter energy, sometimes uh, tears is a way for it to be released. And it's not, to shed the feelings, all of them, and release it, and also allowing him to take that energy from me and let it go. So I know it sounds really crazy, and you don't have to worry that every meditation is going to be like that, because that was like a one-off thing. Um, but the healing that I did from that one meditation, people will spend thousands of dollars in therapy to try and do. And sometimes they still can't achieve that. I mean, it all depends on whether they're willing to do their own work, or if they willing to do their own work, if they have the right therapist that is there to support them. And I'm not telling you to, not do therapy and not find a therapist, but if you have a good baseline, you can do some really amazing work with meditation. Um, and that is just one of my experiences. And there are other times, I mean, that was just a really big one. But even doing a weekly meditation where you can tune in and figure out, what experiences that you had during the week that that aren't yours. And sometimes you can learn a lot about the relationships that you have in your life by, hey, is there consistent behaviors and thing, or hey, is there something that you need to follow up on, or anything. So meditation can look differently for everyone. It is part of having a really healthy mindset, a healthy attitude. Uh, it's if you are intuitive, and if you are sensitive, if you are someone who identifies as an empath, or if you do have it strengthens your intuition, and I can't recommend it enough. So if you are trying to make changes, and if you have tried meditation and you're like, this isn't for me, I just want to encourage you to keep trying. See what other types of meditation there is that's out there. Um, know that they're not all one and the same. And if this is something that you really need help with, please feel free to reach out, because this is my jam. This is what I like teaching people, and yeah, to be continued. We'll talk again.